Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of FLINT Talks. We've just recorded our conversation, and it has been an amazing one. Today, I've been joined by Charlotte and Daisy, who are both in the Auckland FLINT team. Charlotte, who I've been with in FLINT for a few years now, and Daisy, who has just joined us this year, that we're very excited about having on the FLINT team. This conversation has been all about goal setting and habits, how to set yourself up for success, really. We've talked about the habits that we have personally that help us achieve our goals. We talked about ice baths and getting up at 5 a.m. alongside a whole bunch of books and different methods that we've read or heard about over the years that have really changed our lives and allowed us to be the women that we are today. So, if you're interested in learning about how to set goals, how to achieve the goals that you have set, maybe a little bit about what accountability means when you're talking about goal setting, please have a listen and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything we're talking about, or if you do wake up at 5 a.m. as well. We'd love to hear from you. Enjoy the episode. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of FLINT Talks. I'm super excited this week because we have another two amazing FLINT women joining me for the podcast. This conversation is going to be very exciting, and you should be able to get some really great tools to use in your everyday lives. But before we jump into the topic, I'd love for Charlotte and Daisy to introduce themselves. Charlotte, did you want to start?
Yeah, sure thing. So, as Caitlin just mentioned, my name's Charlotte. I actually work for Chorus currently as a delivery manager. And I've been with Flint for about 3 years now. I was told the other day that I am the longest Auckland member at the moment. So, go me. And in Flint, it's been a really crazy journey over the years. We've been able to organize events, meet new people, practice things such as public speaking, which was terrifying, but helped a lot of us grow into new skill sets that we wanted to achieve, as well as meeting and working with fabulous people. And big shout out to our CEO, Craig, because he's a legend.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlotte. And Daisy, I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daisy. I joined Flint for the first time this year, actually. I went to my first event at the end of last year, the CXO event, and I just loved meeting everyone and the whole networking. So I had to join the Flint team for this year. I've been working as an engineer for 1 year now. I left uni at the end of 2023. I did mechatronics and yeah, so I'm just really excited to be on the Flint team for this year and host a lot more cool events.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely great to see you and some other new faces joining us. I think other than Charlotte, I'm the next oldest Auckland Flint member at the moment. And so, yeah, we're always pleased to see some new people coming through, especially from that CXO event. I think that's how Brody, our new chair, first joined Flint and a few of the other team as well, which is always great. So, yeah, what we'll do now is jump straight into our topic, which is that of goal setting. So I know the two of you have had a little chat before the episode. So, Charlotte, maybe I'll throw it over to you to get started about why goal setting is something that's so important for everybody, especially when they're starting out in their careers.
I think goal setting is extremely important, both for career, so in work, and also your personal life. I think it gives real direction and purpose and helps you in many ways to grow within yourself. And I think sometimes when you focus on some goals externally from work, it actually helps you achieve goals in work, but we'll dive a bit more into that later. And most importantly, I think for me, it definitely increases a lot of happiness. And on top of that, there are things that you can to achieve that are quite measurable in life. I think sometimes we'll want stuff, but we don't know how to measure it. And when things seem measurable, they're more achievable. And yeah, I just think if you aim higher in your ambitions, you're going to achieve whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah, an amazing mindset to be thinking about. And definitely, I do resonate with that. I mean, goals being more achievable. Daisy, did you have anything to add before we jump in further?
Definitely on the measurable, I feel like being able to quantify your goal, either if it's a certain date that you're reaching for or just anything that's you can actually quantify, really helps to achieve that goal. And definitely, I think me and Charlotte talked about it before this, but you can go about your work days day to day with no goals in mind. And then you just, I feel like, kind of stay the same. You don't really have much purpose to go to work every day. But if you set yourself even a few goals, then you're already aiming that much higher and wanting to achieve things that you either never thought possible or hadn't actually thought about.
Oh, definitely. Goal setting has been so important for me now that I'm doing my master's, especially. That's been crazy on top of work, making sure I've got all of my assignments done and all that jazz. So I know I've got my word count goals for every time I sit down to do something. And that's kind of how I've broken that down. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you guys go about identifying what goals might be good for you, whether they are in your working life or in your personal life. Do you approach those two different sets of goals differently, or do you apply the same kind of measures?
I think it's very important to plan your goals. So just sitting down and writing them out. And I kind of like sometimes to do it on my phone because you think about goals. Like, I feel when you go to sit down and you've got your paper, everything ready, and then you're like, what actually are my goals? So I sometimes like having a notes app that I can quickly get out and write something down, whether it be even like a New Year's resolution. I feel in January, everyone's talking about what they wanted to achieve for the year. It's good to just jot things down. And in my experience, telling people about what your goals are because it just holds you accountable. People bring it up again, ask if you've like what you've been doing to get towards that goal. And I feel like that's what definitely for me, like being held accountable is how I achieve my goals. Charlotte, what are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. And I think work or externally, thinking about what you want to achieve. And like Daisy mentioned, just taking notes, because sometimes when you are at that moment, you can't just think of everything that you want to do for an entire year, for example. And something that I do, I've done it for quite a few years now, is each year I will have a list of 100 things that I want to achieve. And that's a mixture of like personal things, financial things, stuff I want to buy, adventures I want to go on, things I want to learn. And I think it's not by me sitting there in January 1st going, what are all these things? It's throughout the year going, what does my future self look like? What do I want to achieve in the future? And not overwhelming myself with, I need to do all this right now. Well, how am I going to fit this in this year? It's actually just taking notes and having a brainstorm session with yourself every now and then so that when it like January does come or whenever you want your starting point to be, and it doesn't have to be January, you've kind of already got a list and a brainstorm of all the things that you want to do and achieve. And then it's just kind of structuring them in a way that will best suit the life that you live. And definitely accountability is a really good one. And it's a good conversation starter with people, whether they're new people you've just met or friends that you've had for ages or even work colleagues. Talking about those goals. And sometimes people will have similar goals, so you can kind of compete and hold each other accountable. So I always find look for those accountability buddies. But yeah, a lot of the time it's going, what does my future self want to look like? Who can I communicate it with? Most of all, just enjoying it, to be honest. That's how I achieve it always. Yeah, planning, enjoyment, accountability buddies.
Amazing. Charlotte, I just want to jump back into that. Did you say 100 things every year? That seems so scary to me. I'm sorry, but how? That's like one every 3 days.
No, to be honest, I can definitely take you through how I've found things. I think every year I try something different. Some things work, some things don't. But it's also just making sure that you have a system that works for yourself. And naturally, when you start thinking of things within a year, you start planting seeds for yourself. You start planting seeds in other parts because you know the following year you want it. And then sometimes, like by February, I'd already achieved like 6 goals. this year. And I was like, wow, okay. And they're pretty big goals too, because I'd already started working on them in the back of my mind last year.
Okay, okay. That
Wow.
makes it a little bit more achievable in my head, I guess. I was just thinking, a list of 100 things that are brand new that you're going to tick off this year. But no, if you've been working on some of them a little bit over time, that definitely is a little bit less daunting. But I would probably start with one a month, maybe, and work my way up to the 100. But honestly, that's amazing to hear that you've got that much of a system and you can really achieve so many things across the time of the year. Yeah.
Definitely. And there's some really good books that we'll talk about at the end that help you break it down. I think there's definitely good books out there that can help you navigate a system. So sometimes it's not just focusing on one particular area, it's spreading them across like financial, personal, learning, maybe things that you want to purchase. So it's just making sure that each week, month, quarter, you're spreading out those goals and you understand what money you need for them as well. That's a big one.
I think also that future self that you mentioned, I've been seeing it a lot actually. I don't know if it's a trend at the moment, but setting your goals and then each morning kind of, I don't know if it's a bit of manifesting, but like, what would your future self think in this situation? Say if you had a fitness goal and you really didn't want to wake up for that run, but you're thinking about your future self in a year has done a half marathon. And my future self would have woken up at this time and gotten up for a run. And I feel like those things in your head just help you visualize, what you want to be in the future and how you can actually achieve that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of it is setting yourself up for that success later on. It's like that whole routine thing. If you do it X amount of days, I don't even know how many days it is, then it sticks.
That
But you have to do it, yeah, over and over and over again. And definitely with the fitness thing, I do a little bit of the fitness vibe myself. And I know the days that I don't want to get up and go definitely are hard. But then you just have to think, okay, in 3 weeks' time, if I haven't gone today, I don't go tomorrow, I don't go the next day, I'm not going to be any better than where I am today. And I think for me, it's kind of like my future self will look back and be disappointed in me, but that's probably a bad mindset to have. But I wanna impress my future self, not look back and wish I'd done something differently, I think is the way I wanna look at it.
for sure. You definitely want your future self to be like, yes, go me, and not like, are you loser?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then we also want to be kind to ourselves regardless of what happens. So I always get caught in the okay, which way am I gonna swing today? But yeah, so just thinking about all the goals and things that we might have for ourselves, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you kind of came to set those, how you make sure that they're going to be achievable instead of just those unattainable dreams up in the clouds.
I think, yeah, I already kind of touched on a moment ago. Right. Yeah, planting seeds, making those lists, and taking time to, whether it's work or personal life, is planning time to plan for yourself. Like for me, for example, every Christmas break, there'll be one day I go to a cafe with my laptop and my phone with all my notes on and all my wishes and dreams that I want for the year. And I frame it into a list. And in my list, I've got things like, what type of goal is it? Is it fitness? Is it finance? Is it somewhere I want to travel? I also have a column that says, does this cost money or time or both? So then I'd have an indication of, am I going to need money for this? And then you can kind of make your plan to work out how much money do I need and where can I put this in my year? And then on top of that, it's then going, okay, well, if you have like a blank slate, what does the year look like? Like, what can I really achieve in the first quarter? And then realistically, out of those goals, what goes in the other quarter and the other and the other. And then I think when you're just breaking it down in smaller chunks, it seems so much more manageable because you're like, oh, I don't actually need to worry about the rest of that stuff because that's later on. And I know my plan's going to work. So I think, yeah, planning and trusting yourself too, and trusting that you're going to come back to it. So once a month as well, what I also do is I go back to a cafe. You probably see a pattern there that I keep going to a cafe, and it's just to take myself away from everything else that can distract me. And I go, okay, how did my months go? How did I go towards my goals? And I start planning the following month. So I go, this is on my list for my goals this month. What do I need to do to achieve them? And I do that for work and out of work. So I am very repetitive because I think when you find a system that works for you, yeah, just keep going. Like, because if it works, it works. And that's definitely how I run everything in terms of my goals and how I plan to achieve them. And then also kind of just realizing that sometimes some of those goals are buying stuff to yourself. So then I guess it's kind of tricking yourself and going, well, I want to buy this thing. It's going to cost me this much. But that's also a reward for myself. So I need to actually achieve this and this in order to get that as a reward. But that's also one of your goals. And then you take two birds with one stone.
I like rewarding yourself. That's a good idea. I
Always celebrate the wins.
Yes, definitely. I think also having SMART goals is really important, like making your goal specific, because you could say, oh, I want to finish a project at work, but not having it specific in your head to what the goal is you actually want to achieve, then it makes it really hard to one, achieve it and also to make it measurable, as we talked about before, was so important. And I think, as Caitlin mentioned, how making your goal achievable, not saying, I'm going to, I don't know, walk Everest this year, having something achievable. And even if you get halfway through the year and realize, oh, this actually isn't achievable, instead of throwing it out the window, kind of breaking it into a smaller chunk, maybe, so then you can achieve something, even though it may not be the goal that you wanted to in the first place. That could be kind of a few years down the track, but breaking it up into small bits that seem more achievable is really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that as well. The thinking about, okay, if I'm not actually going to be able to achieve that, making adjustments so that it is something you can still achieve. I think that's something that people probably do get quite stuck with often with setting goals is that they realize, oh, this one isn't going to happen, or, something drastically changes in their life and there's just no way to reach that goal that they'd set, but then that doesn't mean all is lost. It just means that your plans have to shift a little bit. And yeah, maybe you wanted to run a marathon and then you broke your ankle or something. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but is there something else you could do fitness related instead? Or do you adjust your goal to be like, okay, I want to instead walk a 10K because that's kind of where my ankle capability will be by that point? Or something like that, and it's still a really amazing goal that is similar in a fact that it's fitness. You've got the length of time and length that you're actually moving, and you'll probably still get a medal out of it if you're kind of doing it in the same event, so it counts, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a really good point. I think it's definitely being kind to yourselves is another thing that's really important to bring up. I know through my journey of trying to always be like a goal queen was that I used to hold myself too accountable and I used to punish myself. And yeah, I guess speaking to lots of different people, reading books, listening to podcasts such as this, it's realizing that you can be adaptable, you can pivot, you can change. And you know what? There's still so much more time. You can achieve something quite big now. And especially using the example we just spoke about, if you break your ankle, like, sweet, you can't climb Mount Everest right now if you got a broken ankle, but guess what? Anytime your ankle is going to be better and it can just be a goal for another year.
Definitely the podcast and books recommendations have been so good. I think, I don't know if Caitlin, you have read it as well, but Charlotte and I were talking about atomic habits and the different things we picked up from there. And something that, I don't know, no one that I've talked to that has read the book has picked this up, but something that really resonated with me was they said, if you want to start doing a habit, pair it with something else you already do. So something you do every day, you say, when I brush my teeth, I'm always going to do something, because then it works. I've last year tried it, and now that I've stopped doing the first habit, the second habit's gone out the window. I haven't done it at all. So I thought that was actually a really important point. That's actually quite easy to do.
Yeah, no, I absolutely have put that into practice myself. I'm not sure if I got it from the book or if someone else said something, but yeah, one of the things I've been trying to do is learn Spanish. And so I've been going hard on the Duolingo. I'm up to like a 1,200-day streak.
Wow.
Yeah, it's over 3 years now, but I actually do my Duolingo while I'm waiting for my jug to boil for my cup of tea in the morning. And that's kind of because obviously you're just going to be standing there otherwise waiting for it. And it's that couple of minutes that fits perfectly. And if I, for some reason, haven't had a cup of tea that morning, I just know Duolingo's gonna be messaging me about at 9, 10 p.m. at night being like, "You don't wanna lose your streak." And I'm like, "No, I don't wanna lose my streak. Stop."
That's so funny because my example was Duolingo Spanish as well. It helped me do it every day, just pairing it with something else. I'm not nearly at your 3 years. I think mine's like 370 now, but definitely pairing it with something else has been so helpful.
Yeah, and then having the people to hold me accountable. I don't know if you've done it, but a bunch of my friends are also using Duolingo, so we've all like followed each other and now that they've introduced their friend streaks, it's even more I Duolingo, I don't know if yours has gone down this route, but mine is definitely like you don't want to lose your streak. I know you don't want to be
Oh,
disappointed in yourself.
definitely.
Like it gives me so hard. Yeah. And so I get messages from my friends being like, "You're really leaving me hanging here. Like, do you want to lose our streak? How could you do this to me?" And it's just like the generic one from the app when you nudge your friends, but it really motivates me because I don't want to be the one to let my friends down. So definitely the Atomic Habits book is one that I would recommend if you haven't read it. You know, you'll be a Duolingo master by the end of it, by the sounds of things.
Yes.
But do you guys have any other books or podcasts or blogs or anything like that that you would recommend for people that might just be starting in their goal journey or that might have some really big ones and they're not sure how to tackle them?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Love Atomic Habits. I would say that last year reading that book made me just have a whole different view on goal setting. I think partnering the goals is definitely a thing. And also, one thing that stood out to me was visibility. So, if you're trying to achieve something, or you want to build a habit, or there's something that you want to continuously do, they talk about having visible or easy access to things. So if you are practicing running all the time, it's just like having your trainers at the top of like the rack or by the front door or next to the cupboard where you would go and get chocolate from. So every time you go and get chocolate, you think, oh yeah, I should be running. Anything like that, I think is really good. And if you're trying to drink more water, it's having your filter jug not in the fridge but on the side so that you're always just walking past it and you're always reminded of it. And yeah, that book, I won't talk even more about it because I think you should definitely read it if you haven't yet. It's by far one of my favorites. And yeah, another one is I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, but the sort of out of not giving a beep is a really fantastic book as well, and it gives you a different concept of how to view things and making sure that you're not sweating the small stuff. And yeah, really fantastic take on his experience as well. So talking about the different journeys and realizations that he's had. So I think if you can learn from other people's journeys and mistakes, that's a really big thing. Too. Oh yeah, this was a book I read many, many moons ago. But yeah, Millionaire Success Habits was really fascinating for me because all my life I've been told, hey, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, and you should always be working on your weaknesses so that they're not as weak, to level out your kind of skill set. But the one thing that stood out for me in this book was saying, hey, if you're naturally really good at something and there's things you're not so good at, instead of putting all that effort into making what you're not good at to be mediocre at it, what you should do is put that time and energy into the things that you're naturally good at because the improvement that you're going to make on what you're already really good at is going to fly through the roof. And it's those sorts of things that will help you become more successful and navigate things like your goals or your career or, I guess, personal habits. So that really stood out for me and highly recommend that book as well. And another book, which I would say was a big turnaround for me, was The 5 a.m. Club. And I know that sounds horrible for some people, but I promise you I get up at 5 a.m. every day. Well, 5 to my alarm goes off, but I'll actually get out of bed around 5 a.m. And yeah, learning about why people do it in the world. Really successful people have particular habits to get up. And I don't know if it's placebo from reading books, listening to people's experiences, and then thinking, oh, okay, well, all these great people have this. I'm going to do the same. And then my life got great. Or if it naturally or scientifically is a thing that just is true. It's because I think when you get up at that time, it's like the rest of the world around you is just so peaceful and quiet. And you give yourself that peacefulness and you build momentum. You already start ticking things off for your day. And I always just feel like I'm since that moment, and I probably started getting up at 5 around 3 or 4 years ago now. It's been about 4 years ago. And yeah, they've probably been the biggest years of my life for achieving goals and just being a better person, whether it's outside work or inside work, things to do with my career or family, friends, fitness, finances, all of that. So yeah, I definitely recommend getting up at 5 a.m. But if you don't want to just yet, read the book.
Do you get up at 5 a.m. on the weekends too?
I try not to, but sometimes your body naturally just wants you
Yes.
to. So I guess the hard part is a Friday night because I want to go to sleep at 8 p.m. because I've been up for so long, but I try and force myself to stay awake so that I don't wake up so early on the weekend. But sometimes, yeah, your body just gets used to it and you do get up that early.
Well, it makes sense how you get to achieve all these 100 goals each year if you waking up at 5 a.m. every day.
It's got so
Yeah.
much time in the morning.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I actually do is I jump into an ice bath. So that is another thing I highly recommend.
You have one at your house?
Yeah. At the moment, it's probably in the mornings. I haven't been adding additional ice. It's probably sat at around like 12 to 15 degrees. So it's not ice cold, but it's definitely something that wakes you up immediately. And there's tons of health benefits, immunity, and muscle recovery. So yeah, really good because I'm also pushing fitness too. So you've got a win-win there.
That's amazing, Charlotte. You are like goals for everybody right now that is listening to this. They just want to be you. Yeah, well, I mean, that's an amazing thing to be doing. I personally am not a morning person. I get very grumpy if I have to wake up before 7. So I'm not sure if I will be joining you in that 5 a.m. club, but I definitely do agree with having routine in the mornings. I get up, I make my tea, I do my Duolingo. I have pretty much the same breakfast every morning because that's what makes me feel good. And then I make sure that I give myself 20 minutes of just peace to prepare for the day. I definitely think that giving yourself time in the mornings where you don't have to rush is a really great way of setting yourself up to succeed in your day, whether it is to meet goals or whether it's just to have a good day. But if you can be achieving your goals first thing in the morning, like Charlotte, I think that's amazing as well. Daisy, I'd love to hear about any habits you've implemented into your life. Obviously, not quite an ice bath yet, but is there anything you do that really help you achieve your goals?
I think a goal that not net I guess actually this is a good habit I do every day. I'm not quite like Charlotte that I can go to a cafe every month and plan my goals, but every Sunday I sit down and I find it easy just getting my phone out and doing it on a notes app, but planning my whole week out. And so I'll plan everything, even all my exercise. This podcast, planned that into my week. And so then it doesn't seem like a chore in the morning because I already know in my head that I am waking up at this time on this day. So then when it comes to it, I just always seem to be able to get up. Obviously, it's not that easy the first few times, but once you get into that routine, my friend and I, we started swimming. We'd both never swum before, started swimming 6 months ago. And I was thinking about it the other day. every week we would look at our phones at 5 o'clock in the morning and wait for each other to message being like, I don't want to go. Now, 6 months later, neither of us even look at our phones in the morning, and we get there and we don't even ask if the other one's coming the night before because we're both just such in the habit of going. So I definitely think it's not for everyone, but writing a weekly plan down, it doesn't have to be to the every like hour, but just the few things that you want to achieve that day. Cause it also actually helps, I guess, their mini goals and you've achieved them. It's quite satisfying and gives you a small win for the day, achieving your goals. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think having a visual element to it helps. I don't know about you guys, but my partner and I have a shared calendar. And so I make sure that everything that we're planning to do goes into that. And then when I have got things that I need to do something ahead of time for, like a uni assignment or anything, I actually, put the time that I'm going to be doing that in the calendar so that everyone's across it. We all know, okay, this is the time for that. We're not planning anything else that night. We're not doing anything else. I've allocated that. I know that's when I'm going to be doing it. And then obviously having the reminders and things that pop up on your phone, but also, every time I look at my calendar, which I do a billion times a day with work, I can see that, okay, yep, tonight that's a reminder I'm doing this thing. And then it prepares me for it. And my brain's already ticking over what I need to do for it. And then when I get to doing it, it's just so much easier rather than, getting to 2, 3 days before my assignment's due and going, "Oh, I need to do this thing," and then trying to cram it all in. I definitely I don't do it every week, but planning things ahead when I know something's coming up definitely helps me to make sure everything gets done for sure.
Yeah, and I think things like what you're both talking about, I'm sure I've read it or heard it somewhere. It talks about if you are doing the planning and you have those habits, you reduce stress, anxiety, and what's it called, like memory fatigue. So naturally, because you're not having to think of all of this and it's already just structured or in your calendar and it's reminding you, it does get rid of the constantness of the fast-paced age that we're in to having to always be on it and remember everything. And I think that will naturally have a positive outcome for you.
Yeah, well, the top however many most rich people in the world wear the same thing every day, and that's because they don't have to figure out in the morning what to wear. I definitely haven't got to that point, but I have what I call Caitlin outfits. And if I cannot be bothered, I just revert back to a typical Caitlin outfit, and I know it works, it's comfortable, it's got the pockets I need to hold my things, and then I'll be set for the day, obviously weather dependent. But yeah, that's definitely something that I have up my sleeve for those mornings, especially if I'm going into the office, having to see people and I can't just stay in my track pants or anything like that. Having the good old Caitlin outfits really helps me out in the mornings.
Yeah, I love that. I think, yeah, I'm going to take a leaf out of your work and get some Charlotte outfits like left to the side. I haven't quite gone as far as that, but I have people that I work with who do wear the same outfits all the time and they talk about that because that also reduces memory fatigue. But one thing I did do, and here's one of the trial and error things, is that I timed myself picking my outfits every morning. And first thing, I'm not that awake. It took me so long to just staring into my wardrobe and being like, what should I wear? Or then I then went to timing it in the evening. So if I'm a bit tired, how long does it take me to pick my outfits? And then what I do now is on a Sunday, because my work week is Monday to Friday, I'm like, okay, I'm in the office 3 days, I work from home twice. So then I just do those outfits on a Sunday. And yeah, I can literally get all my whole week's outfits planned and work in my fitness outfits, what I'm going to wear on the weekend, done in 10 minutes. And it saves so much time. So I definitely think trial and error is really good and time yourself and see how long things take.
This is so interesting. I'm very big on the night before. All my clothes will be folded on the ground right next to my bed. My workout gear, my gym gear, any stuff that I need to take to work that day, everything is right there. I've already got it here for tomorrow in the corner because I like waking up. Maybe it is that it takes too long to think about it when you are still half asleep, but I just wake up and it also helps you get up in the morning because all you need to do is get out of bed and put the clothes on that are right there. Definitely for those early morning swims, having my togs right next to my bed makes it a little bit easier to get up.
Oh, yeah, and if just thinking about anything you have to take to work with you, like, I have to do that the night before, put it into my bag, or if it's something big, I have to, like, put my keys on it or something, because otherwise I absolutely will forget. There's just I don't know what it is with my brain, but I'm like, "Cool, bag, laptop, water bottle, let's go out the door." The amount of times I have to come back inside because I've left my phone on the counter or something, which is crazy because it's attached to me at all times. But just something about leaving the house means that there's always something I leave behind. But yeah, that trial and error definitely is something I probably need to implement a little bit more to figure out what actually is the best thing for me. So yeah, we've gone over, what kind of goals and how we set them. We've gone over the different habits that we've implemented to help us achieve those goals. We've figured out that Charlotte is an absolute powerhouse of a woman in every aspect of her life. And we've also talked about some really great recommendations for where people can turn to get some more advice. Books, I think, were all four of the ones we talked about. So hopefully you like to read if you're listening to this. Otherwise, I'm sure all four of them will be in audiobook form as well, with how popular I know that all four titles were. So, yeah, if you're listening, I hope that you've enjoyed hearing about how we each achieve our goals and the different little bits and pieces that we implement to make it that much easier. We'd love to hear about what you might do if there's something else. If you are part of the 5 a.m. club with Charlotte, I'm sure she'd love to hear that she's not alone getting up first thing in the morning, especially if you're an ice bather as well. You guys can share positive thoughts while you're freezing your butts off as it comes into winter. But if you're interested in meeting us and hearing more about our journeys with gold, or if you want to hear more about Flint in general, please feel free to reach out. You can message the podcast page, you can message any of us individually, or just come along to one of our upcoming Flint events. We'll be starting to advertise for our first Auckland Flint event soon. And I know the teams all around the country are gearing up for their first events of the year as well. So we'll definitely make sure to share all of those as they start coming through. And you'll probably see them on LinkedIn anyway if you follow Flint already. So I just want to say a big thank you to both Charlotte and Daisy for joining me today. It's been great to have some new voices on the podcast to hear about your goals and how you achieve them. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And if you want to say any last words, now is your chance. Maybe we'll go Daisy, then Charlotte.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to talk more about goal setting, especially for people that have been in the industry a bit longer than I have, to see how people actually approach work goals, especially. And I definitely will be reading the 5 a.m. Club. I've just added it to my Goodreads. So thank you, Charlotte. And thank you so much for having me, Caitlin.
Yeah, and second that, thank you so much for this. Anything on top of recording this with you both, it's been really great to spend some time with Daisy, who is one of our new members, and get to know her a little bit more. And also just think of sharing experiences with people, because it's not something you often just think about doing, really. I didn't realize it was such a big part of my life, but it is. I guess the last word for everybody would be, while it always sounds really positive and really great that people achieve these goals, that sometimes it is the process isn't easy. So you do have to fight through the tough stages. But I promise you that it is just a brief hump. And after you get through that tough stage, it does get a lot easier. And then you start reaping in the rewards. So hang in there and always reach out if you want any help.